G'day folks, welcome to, well, I guess we'll call it a early update or early week update and an introduction to the ML270 major service where I start to take stuff apart. Work's gone really quiet and I was nice enough to, well, they were nice enough to grant me the rest of the week off. And it's only Monday, so that's good. But yeah, everything's under control there. I'm only a phone call away if anyone gets stuck with something. So yeah, it's back into servicing. And as you can see, I'm getting into it. You do need one of these to work on Mercedes-Benz, at least modern ones anyway. E-Torx and Torx. Because 99% of everything on this vehicle is Torx. So you want to buy something like this. This is just an eBay set, it's $110. I haven't stress tested it yet, so I can't say if it's either good or a bag of shit. You'll find out later on, but chances are it should be pretty good. They seem hard enough anyway. My only worry is that they were soft crap, but they don't seem to be. So yeah, I'm just getting things off the car. Intake gear, I'm just raiding the pile of cardboard boxes at work for old pump boxes and just allocating them as like intake bits, injection rail bits, which will all be sealed in plastic bags and capped off, miscellaneous bits, whatever. There's going to be a bit. Cooling system bits, there's going to be hoses coming off, there's going to be that, the fly-by-wire throttle control, water to fuel heat exchanger, power steering reservoir. There's a fair bit to take off, but it's all fairly modular and fairly intuitive. I know a lot of people look at this and go, yeah, there's so many bits. And I did it first until I realised, hey, everything has a sequence of assembly and disassembly. It's just like working on a big photocopier or a CNC machine. Like if you have to do major repair work on a CNC or an injection moulding machine, you're taking this kind of stuff apart all the time. So get used to it. And again, I've had years and years of experience working on engines, both big and small. This kind of thing is a bit new to me, but not completely alien. It's alright. We can manage it. And I've also got some nice new LED work lights. I'm probably going to buy another couple of pairs because these things just kick ass. It's a really nice light wavelength and there's no flicker in the camera. They're just $60 Alec ones. I'll probably go out and buy a couple more pairs tomorrow. And yeah, it's going to be good. They come with the tripod and everything. They're basically just a replacement for halogen floodlights. So yeah, nice. Anyway, I'm just looking where the engine mounts are, all that stuff. I've got the wheel arch trims out. They do require a bit of brute force to twist and pull out of place, but again, you can get right in there. You've got access to the exhaust system, engine mount bolts, top and bottom, turbocharger. Yeah, everything's there. Something bad's happened at one point. That little mounting clip for the ABS sensor cable's melted, along with the little plastic dongle thing up there. I think that actually was it. Yeah, that was it. So there's been a bit of heat coming off this at one point, which is apparently empty. There's no massive canister mid-muffler in this either, it's all gone. There should have been something somewhere down here, yeah. Most of the exhaust's been hacked out and modified. So she's got a real nice growl to her and no restrictions. Well, no real restrictions. There is still a muffler in there, but there's just empty cat converter, empty resonator, standard oval bog stock muffler from like Repco or something, and that's about it. So yeah, she gets along pretty well, and I want to help her breathe in a bit better, not just breathe out, but breathe in. And that's what this is about, not just fixing the cooling system up and doing preventative maintenance. It's repairing the bloody busted swirler flap issue. These things have these crappy little EGR swirlers. In rare documented cases, they break off and get chewed by the valve and piston. Well, it jams the valve, piston meets valve, and then smash. Goodbye engine. EGR has been electronically deleted already. I've done that with the little resistor and diode combo. next up is get rid of that, possibly replace that with something else. Get rid of that, the EGR to water heat exchanger, the fuel heat exchanger pumpy fanny thing as they call it, the manifold going to the block, and just blank that off and make a little stainless plate that has a tap coming off for the heater, because that cast alloy manifold, as I get it off, you'll see contains a coolant passage and a exhaust gas passage, so it's a dual purpose flange that bolts to the side of the head right down there. So yeah, there's a bit of work in it, but basically I've got a new radiator, new thermostat, new lower hose. Upper hose looks much better than the lower one, but I'll do that eventually anyway. That's easily accessed because it's right on top. I'm going to feel how the water pump bearings feel when I get it apart. If the water pump bearings are bad, I'll throw one on order and get it in straight away because they're in stock locally. But yeah, I've already done the main drive belt, that's all nice. Turbo itself is happy, the bearings have little if any play in them. There is an oil seal issue. The return line is just a flange mount with an O-ring, and that O-ring's gone, so there's a little bit of oil weeping out under the turbo. But apart from that, we're not too bad. This has gone bad. This is an oil separator, PCV/oil separator. That's gone bad. There's a fair bit of oil coming down into the inlet, so I'm going to clean that out and possibly replace it if it's not fixable. Yeah, overall, not hard at all. It's just a bit tedious. Just got to be patient and do it properly. So yeah, I've got both wheel arch trims out, and you can get into everything. I'll do this side in the daylight or when I get more LED lamps. But there's essentially a little vacuum pump there, electric vacuum booster pump, starter motor, everything's accessible. ABS block. Yeah, literally 15 minutes you can remove enough stuff in this engine bay to make access to virtually all major components quite easy. I know these cars look daunting, but at least they were half smart about how they designed them. The newer ones, well, probably not, but yeah, we'll see how we go. But yeah, I've got two new engine mounts to replace, radiator, lower hose, thermostat, which does include the thermostat housing, temperature sensor and all this bypass pipe work. It's just one unit. Yeah, not too bad. But yeah, that little guy might have to be replaced. It's all pretty good high mile service stuff, pretty standard. 356,000 Ks now, which has done pretty well and still does very well. So yeah, all that's coming out. Polish headlights up, get rid of the rest of the yellowing. This has to come off, headlights have to come out, intercooler comes out, fan comes out, disconnect the PWM controller there, because it's a variable speed DC fan. And just get to everything that I possibly can, clean it, assess it, service it and replace if necessary. And she'll do me in the next 10-15 years if I really want to keep her that long. It's worth it. So yeah, that's my little update. Hopefully my net doesn't cop out trying to upload it, and yeah, we'll go from there. I might tidy this up too. I'm going to take the coolant bottle out and tidy up my old bodge pipe work and replace this one down here. This heat, we've got a 1-inch heater hose. Very doable. Thanks for watching. Alright, so next day with the ongoing disassembly, I have drained coolant. The system's basically open and dry now. It's got a note where each hose goes. The one with the little check valve on it goes to the top of the reservoir. This one goes to the thermostat housing. Vacuum wise, this one goes down to the electric vacuum pump down there, and this other end goes to the mechanical vacuum pump on the front of the engine block. That simply goes off to the HVAC system down here. He plugs in there. You can see where I blanked off the transducer for the EGR. That is no longer in the system. So what I really want to do is find a way to disconnect this. It's actually a rubber grommet going into the booster, so I'm going to have to try and pry him out and just remove this hose completely. The throttle can all be dragged out and sort of stuffed down here for now, but this one here's a rigid line. I don't want to break it, so I've got to find a way to safely remove it. And then we'll look at safely removing the coolant reservoir, and we'll start removing all the front end and the piping for the intake, or the intercooler, because all that needs to come out. Definitely don't have to remove the turbo. I just have to remove coolant hoses. I'm going to replace this one and that one, and the rest of it, well, yeah, it's not too hard. The coolant hose I have for this is from an E series, but they seem to share the exact same part number. I'm just hoping it fits the water pump. The water pump on this looks a bit bigger, but then that hose is very swollen. So it actually looks like the new hose I have from the E class, Pt1 will actually fit that quite nicely. We should be in luck, because I cannot find an ML270cdi lower hose anywhere. It's all E270. But if they use this exact same power pack in the E-Class and just drop it in, well, it makes sense. I could probably get an E-Class hose cheaper than an ML hose. Same with the top hose. The top hose is probably cheaper for an E-Class than it is for an ML class, because they both use the OM612 engine. I think it's 612 164 series engine. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, ready to go. Move stuff out of the way, start putting parts into containers, and go from there. And as you can see, I've got the both wheel arch trims out, and I've also got a nice big tub to clean stuff into. I'm going to put that under the car, wash down what I have to, and catch all the carbon black nastiness for disposal. And also I've got a few cans of very, very caustic cleaner for getting rid of the carbon out of the intake. That's going to be nasty, really nasty. But hey, it's glass-filled nylon, it can handle caustic attack with no problem. So I don't mind using very caustic chemicals. And you'll have to come off and get cleaned too. There's a lot of oil coming out of that. Okay, well the fly-by-wire assembly is pretty easy to get off at the top. There's a nasty little clip down there. You've got to get a screwdriver in from this side and depress the tab and snap it out. So it's not the easiest little thing to get out. Yeah, there. You've got to get a screwdriver in and push that down and then slide it out and it'll come off. And that's the fly-by-wire throttle potentiometer. Very straightforward. And yes, shock horror, I'm actually wearing gloves. So many people have said in the past, why don't you wear gloves when you work on engines? Well, this is one of those rare occasions where you really need to wear gloves, because Alyse is a dirty girl. She's covered in grime. And when you're with dirty girls, you got to wear some protection. That's not a euphemism at all. Anyway, let's remove these coolant hoses. Well, remove the coolant bottle. I'll just disconnect everything down here, leave it all connected to the bottle. Disconnect from the radiator at the top there, and the thermostat housing, and remove the heater core hoses after that. And then I can start getting into here. So yeah, once you remove all the crap from the outside, it's not that hard to get to. I should also mention that this, the hose clamp holding this on was hanging on by one little thread. Literally, the rest of the clamp had broken away, and as soon as I backed it off, I felt it click, and it just fell apart. So that was a ticking time bomb. I'm going to remove that time bomb and dispose of it appropriately. So yeah, once all this manifold and that fuel heat exchanger, which is not necessary for Australian climates, is gone, she's going to be a happy little girl. I'm just going to make a blanking plate for the side of the cylinder head with a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch outlet on it, and just connect it straight up to the heater core. That's it. Ready to roll. Nah. First blood. Thanks to a little, well, C-word clip, pulling the heater hose off the heater core, dragged my elbow straight across the top of that clip. Those little rounded nuts on hose clamps, they're not so bad. These clips, they are vicious. But I've got the cooling hoses off, that side's freed up. I just got to disconnect the PWM controller for the fan. I can take the intercooler hose out at one point, take the front nose panel off. It's like Hollywood plastic surgery. We're going to take your nose off, your eyes out, heap of ancillary equipment, you know, basically tear you apart and make you feel new again, but probably not look new again. It's Hollywood all over again. Didn't Kelly Osbourne have an ML320 or something? Exact same year and style, just with the 3.2 V6. Pretty sure she did. I'm sure. Actually, no. My most memorable moment is seeing a M-Class Mercedes is in Jurassic Park, and the promotional vehicles they made, which are kind of cool. I wish I had one of those. Anyway, let's look at getting her nose apart. Yeah, Hollywood plastic surgery 101. If in doubt, rip their face apart and pull out whatever else you don't really need and try and replace it and hope for God's sake it works. I'll stop now. Alright, well the nose plate's loose. No way of really retracing the hood release cable where it goes, so take the two 6mm screws out of the hood release and just detach the cable down in there. It's not hard, you just twist it out of its lock and then release the cable lock and just pull this little tab out. Nice and easy. As far as getting the headlights out, if you can't figure out how to do that on an M-Class, you shouldn't be working on it. There's a little plastic tab on the little trim that goes here. You pop that out. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And then you just carefully wiggle it out and pull them out. Very, very straightforward. And you can see why I'm so keen on getting in here. I've already scraped and pried a ton of debris out of here. That's only a small quantity. That radiator was like 75% blocked with dead insects and just outback dirt. So I'm really keen to replace this whole lot. I'm not replacing the condenser or the intercooler. I'm going to wash them with coil cleaner, but definitely replace the corroded old radiator. This thing was completely blocked with debris. She's done quite a few outback miles. She's well travelled, I'll give you that. Give her that much. She's done a good job. Okay, next day. It is spitting with rain, but I am recovering the AC because I know the guy at the local mechanics shop said you can do it with the AC still in, but it is looking to be increasingly difficult. So I'm going to do the logical thing. I'm degassing it. Nothing illegal going on here. You didn't see anything. It's actually too late to take it down the road and get it done by my roadworthy mechanic. He's a qualified automotive Reggie, but since she's not driving anywhere, I can't do that. So I've improvised and used a slushy machine condenser, a brand new old stock R134A condenser, brazed fittings, and a 12 megapascal rated AR02 storage cylinder. Just a little disposable bottle. And so far I've probably got about 750 grams out, and we're down deep into vacuum now, or almost. So there's just going to be a little bit evaporating out. The lines are freezing cold and sweaty, so it'll take a while for that last little bit to evaporate and come out. I don't know how completely charged the system was when I started. I have a feeling it might have been a little bit low. Not too bad, it still worked fine, but it was just not freezing cold. It's not that crisp cold, so regardless I'm going to be taking it back and getting a recharge. So I did lose a little bit purging oxygen and air out of the system, and then put the bottle and the compressor itself under absolute vacuum for 15 minutes and let it all dehumidify and warm up. So that worked really well. There should be virtually no contamination, and the remainder of that charge can be charged straight back in again once I've done all the O-rings and replaced all these, well, not replacing the lines, reinstalling the lines. I'm just going to do all the O-rings because I've got the full carton set of green O-rings for them. That'll make things a lot easier, especially when lifting the engine up. I don't have to unbolt the e-box. I can take this manifold pipe off and just seal everything up, cap it all off, and then go for it. And we'll put this AC system under absolute vacuum for 15-20 minutes, and then reintroduce the charge. Then I'll get it all checked out by my mate. That, or I'll just hang on to this. I'll see how much he charges for a fresh, like a full professional vac down and refill. I might just get a whole fresh new charge put in this and keep that stuff for top-ups. I know Bluey Rav's a bit grouchy because his AC compressor O-rings have all leaked. We put dye in it when I got it refilled, and yeah, the dye showed the O-rings that I didn't replace were the ones leaking. Typical. So anyway, enough on that. That's still pumping down. We're about 20 inches in mercury into vacuum. I wish it was hotter out here. It's actually quite a cool morning, but I got to run with what I got to run with. Alright, we're ready to lift the stack out once I finish disconnecting power steering. It's just draining at the moment. I don't know what kind of fluid I need to put back in it, but it looks and smells like D2. I'll just look up the technical data on it. It's probably D2 or D3. Either way, if I purge the system out, it'll probably work just fine with D3. Standard vane type pump and rack and pinion power steering rack. Auto transers are really picky about fluids. You put the wrong one in, they'll bang into gear and do all kinds of bad things, but power steering I've generally been able to flush the systems through with D2 or D3, depending whether it wants synthetic or semi-synth or whatever. They're not too bad. It'll probably be synthetic. Yeah, so that line there goes from the receiver, liquid receiver, to the condenser, so that doesn't have to go anywhere. Yeah, it's just that top banjo. Yeah, still dribbling a bit. So that's return to reservoir. The bottom hose I pulled off was return from rack. So it goes rack, cooler, reservoir, and then back to pump, which is that one there. He's going to have to come off too. Might get a little bit messy. It's going to be messy. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's pull this stack out. There we go. Much easier to work on. Yeah, I'm going to take the belt off and see how the water pump feels, because I can get them locally. Not too bad. Check that leak out. Oh, no, that's just oil. That's probably coming from the PCV, leaking down through everything. Yeah, that's not diesel fuel, that's just oil. I thought this fitting might have been leaking, but it'd be all over the top of the water pump and the belt if that was the case. Nothing a bit of degreaser can't fix. So you're coming out and getting replaced, because the engine just never seems to get up to running temperature. Usually a bad thermostat on these. Tensioner still works alright. These are still a little expensive, guy. They're about $100 and something. That's a consumable item. That rubber's gone. There's a part number on it too, so I'll just search that part number, and if I don't get one now, at least I can still get up underneath with the spanner and take it off. I don't know why they couldn't just use a normal spring clutch like a regular AC compressor, like everyone else does. That's another consumable item. That's a freewheeling pulley for the alternator, which is also liquid cooled. There's a line coming down there from up the top. So it's water cooled alternator. The turbo needs a very good clean up. Alex suggested putting a straight pipe through the guts of this can if it hasn't already got one. Maybe later. I won't do it now. That can come out later after all this is reassembled. So there's a bit to do. ABS block. It's happy where it is. Yeah, definitely doable. First thing I'm going to do is the engine mounts, then I can start putting stuff back in, sort of. Yeah, No, bugger it, I'll do the engine mounts when I've got the intake out. I can get to both sides easier that way. So, that mass of stuff is next. Ooh, that's going to be tricky. Fuel system has to come apart. And then we look at getting in underneath. Fun. That's the main fan. It's a brushless DC by the feel of it. Cogs at specific points. That's its speed controller. Refrigerant receiver can stay plugged. I've got to take the intercooler off and stand it on end and drain any oil out of it. Yeah. There's 850 watts, 13 volts. It's pretty decent. Nice size fan, make it good root. Could make a good wall fan for your bedroom. Just use pulse DC, you've got variable speed control and everything. I'd like to see what someone could make of one of these. It's the caution fan. I don't think that's what it means. Yeah, let's get this stack apart. It's good that the condenser come out because it really needs a clean, and I didn't particularly want to do that in the car. Also, it looks like there's a bit of oil around that fitting. So yeah, new O-rings, new charge of gas. We'll do it all from scratch. Yeah, very nice.